It's 5 o'clock. I'd like to welcome everyone here to this meeting, the Bismarck Planning and Zoning Commission. And with that, I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask Sarah to call roll.
Commissioner Bittner? Commissioner Field?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Larson?
Here.
Commissioner Lukens? Commissioner Schell?
Here.
Commissioner Schmitz? Commissioner Sivak?
Here.
Commissioner Wangen?
Here.
Commissioner Zent,
Here.
me. Chair Schwartz.
Here. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the first item on our agenda this evening, which is consideration of the approval of minutes for our March 26th meeting. Commissioners, what are your wishes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Zent.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Wagen. Any discussion? And I'm not seeing or hearing any, so Sarah, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Wangen?
Yes.
Commissioner Field?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Schell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sivak?
Yes.
Chair Schwartz. Oh,
Yes.
excuse me, Commissioner Zent.
Yes.
Chair Schwartz.
Yes.
Thank you.
The motion is approved. Thank you. We'll move on to our consent agenda this evening. And we have 3 items in our consent agenda. The first being Schaefer Heights, Block 2, Lot 1, less Lot 1A, and Lot 2, less Lot 2A. And it is a request for a zoning map amendment. And staff's recommendation is to call for a public hearing. The second is Daybreak Second Edition, Block 1, Lot 1, and Block 6, Lot 1. And this is a request for a zoning map amendment and future land use amendment. And staff's recommendation for both items is to call for a public hearing. And then finally, the third item in our consent agenda is Silver Ranch 5th Edition. And this is a request for a preliminary plat and zoning map amendment. And staff's recommendation is to once again call for public hearing on both items. Commissioners, what are your wishes for the consent agenda this evening?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wagen to approve.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Johnson. Any discussion? And I'm not seeing or hearing any. Sarah, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Sivak?
Yes.
Commissioner Field?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wangen?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Schell?
Yes.
Commissioner Zent?
Yes.
Chair Schwartz.
Yes, the motion is approved. We will now move on to our regular agenda this evening. And the first item on that is a briefing from Hillary on our HUD consolidated plan. Hillary, welcome back to the meeting.
Hey, thank you. It's been a few minutes.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. Good evening, Chair Schwartz and Commissioners. Thank you for having me. For those of you who may not be as familiar with me, my name is Hillary, and I'm a planner and the CDBG Program Administrator for the Community Development Department. Included in your packet for the agenda item number 3A is a general overview of the Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG for short, program that is administered as part of the Planning Division of Community Development. The City of Bismarck participates in the CDBG program as an entitlement community receiving an annual allocation from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD for short, which is then used to meet one of the 3 national objectives set by HUD, which must include either a benefit to low to moderate income persons, the removal of slum or blight, or an urgent need typically associated with a declared national disaster. The City of Bismarck has historically aligned its CDBG goals and objectives with activities that accomplish the national objective of a benefit to low to moderate income persons. A requirement of continued participation in the CDBG program is the development of a 5-year consolidated plan. This plan serves as the framework for the city's goals and objectives and the implementation of activities over that 5-year period. Goals and objectives are then implemented yearly through the CDBG Annual Action Plan, and what you've been provided with in the memo in your packet is a link to the draft 2025 to 2029 CDBG Consolidated Plan, which is now available for viewing and comments during its 30-day public comment period until May 11th, at which time public comments received will be reviewed and considered for implementation into the plan. The plan consists of multiple major sections, including a market analysis, needs assessment, strategic plan, and the 2025 annual action plan. One notable item is that the annual action plan section of this plan has been drafted based on an estimated 2025 allocation, with the expectation that the city will receive approximately $350,000. The subrecipient amount in that section will be adjusted accordingly in the event a higher or lower allocation is issued by HUD. We expect to have our final formula for this amount by the end of May, with consideration of the final plan by City Commission in June and submittal to HUD for final approval immediately after. No action is needed by this commission. I wanted to simply notify you and those listening or watching of the opportunity for your review of this plan. And if you wish to do so, you may submit comments or contact me directly with questions or for discussion. Do you have any questions for me now?
Commissioners, questions for Hillary? I'm not seeing or hearing any,
It's a perfect
Hillary.
plan.
And you
Wonderful.
answered my question, so thank you.
Very good. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will move on to the second item in our regular agenda, which is Bowden Edition, Block 1, Lots 1 through 23. And Daniel is going to provide us with staff briefing this evening.
Good evening, Chair Schwartz, Commissioners. So Bowden Development LLC is requesting the zoning map amendment. As you mentioned, it is lots 1 through 23, Block 1 of Bowden Edition. You may be feeling a little bit of deja vu that we did have a public hearing on this request at the last meeting. However, there was an error in the legal notice in the newspaper. Some of the lots of this legal description were omitted from that notice. So because of that, our ordinance requirements were not met for the notice. So we are holding this hearing to make sure anyone who may have been relying on that newspaper ad has the opportunity to be heard on this topic. The staff report, the presentation, the things that were in your packet were all correct. The mailings were correct, but the legal notice is a requirement of ours. So we've opted to hold this hearing. This is on a portion of the request. As you recall, there were 3 items. There was a zoning map amendment from R10 to RT zoning districts. There was a future land use plan amendment, and there were some text revisions to the RT residential zoning district. This public hearing is on those text amendments. That was what was missed in the legal ad. So just to get your bearings on the site again, this is in North Bismarck. It's on the east side of North Washington Street and the south side of East LaSalle Drive, just south of Liberty Elementary School. So the changes that I have referenced are in your packet. I'll outline them right now, though. Essentially, the sizes of the buildings are limited in the ordinance today to 4,000 square feet plus an additional 1,000 square feet for a garage in each of the structures. This change would not increase the overall footprint, but it would just create a flat 5,500 square feet, whether there's a garage or not. So essentially, from the outside, it would look the same. However, there'd be more flexibility on how the interior space could be used. That's one change. The second change is that the sizes of the signs would be calculated differently. Currently, 60 square feet of signage is allowed total on a lot, and signs in lots that have a right-of-way on the public, have a frontage on the public right-of-way and the interior roadway would be allowed up to 2 signs. That is changed to 45 square feet per sign. So some of the lots would have a little less signage, some of them could have a little more signage, but the 45 square feet would be applied per sign. And thirdly, a commercial parking lot would be allowed within the conditional RT zoning district. The property owner has signaled interest in additional overflow parking. The different lots would all have their own parking for their uses. However, for events and in certain special occasions, they wanted to have a commercial lot that could be utilized by all of the offices within the subdivision. There is also in this ordinance a landscape buffer requirement on the east side. However, that would be outside of the area we're referring to today. However, you'll notice that in the changes that a landscape buffer would need to be planted on the east side of this RT residential zoning district. So based on the findings that are in your staff report, we are recommending approval to these revisions to the conditions of the conditional RT district in lots 1 through 23, block 1 of Bowden Edition, as outlined in the attached draft ordinance. We did receive 4 new comments that were distributed to you this morning. A comment did come in afterward that missed the deadline, and I hope they're here today to express that comment. But we did have 4 written comments that were distributed, and you were able to see those hopefully by this time. So if you have any questions for me, I can attempt to answer them.
Commissioners, questions for Daniel? Commissioner Schell?
Daniel, just maybe to clarify, the zoning change that happened at the last meeting that was recommended was for some of the the R10 lots to switch to RT. That decision has already made. What's before us today is the stuff that was already RT to change the conditions within that. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. You voted at your last meeting on a 6-1 vote to recommend approval, and 2 of those things were valid recommendations because it was a valid hearing, including the R10 to RT. It's the text changes that we are doing today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, additional questions for Daniel? I'm not seeing or hearing any, Daniel. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, this is a public hearing, so I will open the floor to either the requester or a representative to come speak to us on this agenda item. Jason, could I get you to put your name on the log there, please?
You bet.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Schwartz and Commissioners. Today we're here again, but specifically to talk about the text amendment to the conditional part of the RT zoning. And so, as Daniel said, there's 4 components to that text change, and I'd just like to maybe talk a little bit about each of those 4 components. The first component that we have is the square footage change specifically to the garage portion of the text amendment. So we have a total square footage of 5,500 square feet. Currently, as it exists, 1,000 square feet or up to 1,000 square feet can be garage. And so this change would then just be 5,500 square feet total for the building, allowing then those users to use that in any manner within the building, whether it's a garage or if it's internal use for the commercial aspect of what they're bringing in. The second part is the square footage to the signage. And so we were kind of caught off guard a little bit, and it happened at the point where we were in construction with some of the first site plans. We were looking at putting some signage, of course, on the interior side and also the exterior side of Washington Street. And what we found out was that 60 square foot didn't allow for realistic signage to have, nor did our text of that conditional RT allow for that. So working with staff, we were able to come to a compromise to allow for 45 square feet of signage on the side of that Washington perimeter and LaSalle perimeter, but then also be allowed some small signage on the interior aspect of that building too. The third component of that is the portion of the property that is converted last month from the R10 to the RT zoning. Those twin homes that were looked at that time in that area just kind of got to be really dense. There's some storm sewer easements that run through that property, and so we didn't have a real good opportunity to come back to try to relot those areas out to try to, bring that density down a little bit from those 10 units to maybe 8. And so we had done some planning to see what it would cost to, redo storm sewer and all those types of things to move it. But we were just really having a struggle trying to get that to work. And so just working with all the different groups within that area, everybody just kind of got to a point where they're like, we feel we'd like to just get away from that. So kind of re-swinging around and trying to pivot on what to do with that area now. We started to get comments from those groups of, hey, we've got, Christmas parties, or maybe we've got people that come in from town for a big meeting and stuff. It sure would be nice if we had some areas for some additional parking for this group in this area. And so we put together some concepts for that, and it kind of seemed like that could fit. Had some meetings with the city, and so that's something that possibly could be in the works to site a communal parking lot. And so through that process, number 4 came in, which is because of the change and because of the use, how we deal with that buffering between the single-family residence and that commercial aspect. So came up with concept for a buffer yard to be placed all the way along that eastern side of that zoning change. That area is about 530 feet long. And so we would end up with a buffer yard that would, according to zoning, 2 shade trees, 3 large conifers, 10 small conifers, 14 shrubs, every 100 feet. And so that would, according to the buffer in the city's ordinance, would suffice for that. That would be the density of that planting material. So if you guys got any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything you guys may have.
Commissioners, questions for Jason? Jason, you talked about trees for the buffer. Will those trees be full-grown trees, or how will you start them? What size will they be?
There are size requirements within the ordinance. And so whether they're 2-gallon, 5-gallon, or 2-inch caplars, there is some guidelines that follow through with that.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Again, commissioners, questions for Jason? I'm not seeing or hearing any, Jason. Thank
Thank you.
you. With that, the podium is open for others that would care to address this agenda item. And I'm not seeing or hearing any. Oh,
You can't think that I wasn't going to be here. Okay. Thank you, everybody who has put time and thought into this. I just have a few things that I wanted to ask. Some of them relate to our last hearing because.
and would you please introduce yourself again?
Oh, I thought everybody would remember. My name is Dawn Ulmer, and I live in Boulder Ridge on the first edition.
Don, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm adjacent to Bowden Development. If it was possible, if Dan wouldn't mind putting that picture up, I just like having a picture of it as we talk. There were some things that were brought up after I sat down at the last meeting, and then I couldn't address them because it was past the public hearing part. So a few things I just wanted to maybe get clarification on for those people in Boulder Ridge who couldn't be here. Some of them said they felt like it didn't matter if they were here, and if they put in their written comments, they said they're never read out loud, so they felt like those were dismissed. So I just wanted to get some clarification on a few things. For one thing, the first thing that was mentioned was adding the garage space so that it's going to be a total of 5,000 square feet for each building. So in other words, by adding a big parking lot, they can extend the building and make it a bigger office building, basically is what's happening. And when this first came up for a zoning change, the whole plan was that these would look like homes. They'd be small, and the garage would be, there wouldn't be parking lots. There would be just something where people can come and go, and there was no need for cars to be sitting out there. So that was in our original commission meeting, and I just wanted to point that out because that was something that we had discussed before. The other thing that was brought up just now is really ironic because when we first went to the zoning commission meeting on this property and the zoning was changed, one of the things that we brought up was that twin homes was too much density, that businesses and twin homes would be too much density for that property. But we were told that we were wrong and that the twin homes would be fine. So can you understand the confusion of the taxpayers in Boulder Ridge, that our first argument was it was too dense and we were told, no, it's not. And now we're told, oh, I guess it's too dense. Does that make sense that that's confusion? Is there anybody that can clarify the reasoning behind that? Why it's okay now, but it wasn't then?
Don, we can certainly ask Jason that question after.
Okay. And you can kind of see where this is headed. There's a little disillusionment with public comment when public comment is made and then dismissed, and nobody really seems to take action on it. And so these are some things we had concerns about. Another thing, and I realize you've made the decision to rezone. You probably made that decision, most of you, as you're sitting here today. You know what's going to happen. But originally, we were told the signs would be small. There wouldn't be a lot of lights. There wouldn't be a lot of pavement. There wouldn't be parking lots. And now we're in the position where that's changing. And so when I go back to look at the plot, one of the things that was brought up last time after I spoke was that this was a piece of ag property that just went to commercial, but that wasn't really the case because in the original plan, we looked at the original plan, and you probably have it on file. It was residential homes, single-family homes, 32 of them. And the complication was brought up that you can't have homes, you can't sell homes alongside Washington, but if you look on the map, right alongside Washington, that's where Boulder Ridge is. Those are all homes alongside Washington, so that wasn't a valid argument. The other question our neighborhood has is right across the road, there is commercial property that Knutsons are selling, and we were told that this is good land use to change our residential area into commercial property. So is there any clarification on how that was in the best public interest? Just for the people who are listening and video, they'll watch the video later. So how come we rezoned this when you can see right across the road, it's all zoned commercial? If somebody could just tell me, what is the reasoning?
Well, again, we can have a planner step up after you present.
Okay. Then will I get to talk after them? Because these are questions that you have to get answered as you look forward. Another one. What's the other question? Okay, so we covered that. In my opinion, and I would love to work with, I've talked to Cam already, and we've talked about working on that watershed area and doing something really good with it. So that's something we're already talking about. But I would just like to take into consideration, for the public interest, what is the purpose of bigger signs, bigger buildings, and now a big parking lot? And you can see where our homes are. And I appreciate the fact that there will be single-family dwellings behind my house. That's awesome. I'm very thankful for that. But still, from my deck, I still see the entire property. And I still look across the road and see commercial property for sale. And yet we're being told that beside this elementary school, beside our homes, it is the best use of land to change it from residential to commercial. Where if you want to decrease the density of twin homes, couldn't we just put single-family dwellings there like it was originally planned? You know, we knew it would be too dense. And I appreciate that you spoke up at the last meeting. I appreciate that. It's just really frustrating as taxpayers to really have a really good argument and be told that you sympathize with our argument, but you're still going to go ahead and do what you plan to do. And feel like decisions are made before we ever get up here and talk. So I just have those questions, and if anybody can answer that. One more thing. At the end of our meeting, our mayor, who I voted for, made the comment, this is a good use of land because we need more businesses in North Bismarck. And I thought that was just kind of a strange comment considering what we're looking at. We have businesses. We're surrounded by businesses now. Our specials go up, up, up all the time. Our taxes go up. There's a lot of businesses. There's a lot of commercial property that's not being used. So that's a comment I would like clarification on. And I think that's all I have. Is there going to be a problem selling homes between commercial property and a watershed area? You know, what if there is problem selling those homes or selling those lots? What's going to happen to us then? So those are things to think about. So with that on the table, if somebody could just answer and clarify why this is okay to do, especially after in the original rezoning, the specifics we were told is a limit to the height of a building, limit to the size of the building, no parking lots, and no big commercial buildings. And now we're being told, okay, those twin homes too dense, we need big parking lots. And so from our house, on our deck, in the summer, we'll look out at a parking lot. And another group that is concerned is the families that drop off kids at the elementary school. So we could have sold homes for kids that could go to that elementary school. And now we have commercial. And we have commercial zoning across Washington, so I'm sure we'll get more businesses there. But if there's just somebody that could explain and clarify why this was in the public's best interest, I would really appreciate it. And I think all of the taxpayers in our neighborhood would appreciate it. And this is nothing personal. The Knutsons all do great work. We know that. I just need some clarification on some of those things and how your decisions are made. And you can see, if you look back at the last meeting and the meeting before that, you can see that there were points brought up that are now being used on the side of changing zoning again, where when we brought them up, we were told we were concerned over nothing. So I would appreciate that if you would just help us understand the homes all over in this area, and then over here commercial. Why couldn't we have just finished off Boulder Ridge and kept it residential? And that's all I have for today. But if anybody else has questions for me, I'd take them.
Commissioners, questions for Dawn? I'm not seeing or hearing any, Dawn.
Okay,
Thank you. And thank you for being patient. I remember that you did stand up at the meeting last month after the public hearing. And with that, the podium is open. Jason?
Chairman, Commissioners, just to address a few of the questions that were asked. In regards to the building size is not getting larger. So the 5,500 was in the original text of the PUD. It is going to stay the same. The only difference is they do not have to have a garage potentially, where it would have been 4,500 square feet with up to 1,000 square feet of garage. So that footprint doesn't change. The comments in regards to the density is more of a spatial issue. And so when we worked with some of the building development companies in town, as far as starting to look at twin homes and things like that, they are saying to us that, hey, these units, what people want, are much larger than the lots are, which is why we were trying to figure out how to redo the lots to get less buildings in that area. But we ran into difficulties with that storm sewer easement. So just with the lack of interest in that, everyone was saying it's not really working for us with that. So that's where that pivot became, moving that over to the RT use. As far as the signs go, being too large, without this amendment, actually the signs would be allowed to be larger. The only signs that, or the areas that get two signs, are the ones along Washington Street in LaSalle. And those signs are going to face out towards the projection of the street. So actually, this would be a reduction within the development for overall square footage of the signs. So we did think that was a good thing. So some of them along there would be a little more area of total sign. All the others are going to be less area of total sign, all the interior stuff. And then just a point of, on the R5 zoning, We actually are starting some single-family structures this spring and hoping to get those up and going and done before fall, so we can start getting some residents in there. We've got people that are interested in that area, and so we're kicking that off here pretty soon. So if there's any questions, I can address any questions you may have.
Commissioner Field.
So from the last meeting, this was originally going to be homes where you're putting the commercial now. So the people that bought the house or the lots and built homes that are going to be looking at the back side of this commercial development, what are they going to see? They're going to be dumpsters, storage. What's back there? Or is it the face of the building or the back of the building?
So there is a landscape buffer that borders all of the commercial area that bounds onto any residential area. Any of the dumpsters by code would be required to be within a fenced enclosure. Typically, those are up front by the street, so they can be accessed by a truck that would pick those receptacles up. And then, of course, there is additional landscaping that all the commercial products have for landscaping for perimeter parking and things like that.
So the actual face of the businesses is facing Washington.
On the Washington portion, those face the interior street. So there is an interior loop within there, and then those buildings would typically face those interior looped streets.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Field. Commissioners, additional questions for Jason? I have one for you, Jason.
Yes.
You've been with this project from the beginning, right?
Yes.
Has the footprint of the buildings changed over that time? Have they gotten larger? What was the initial promise?
Chairman Schwartz, Commissioners, when we brought the original project in, we came in with the PUD that you have pre-change here. So the changes that we are asking for, everything other than that is what we came in at that time when we brought Bowden Addition in. So it all came in together. It was the conditional RT, the R10, it was the plat zoning change, future land use amendment. So that all came in together. Nothing has been changed since we came forward last month.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Is there any initial thoughts on how many lots would be allocated towards the parking that's allowed now, since you can build an independent parking lot?
So the lots that are there, the 3 individual twin home units, not buildings, but just units, right? So a twin home and a half lot, that was the size of the preliminary parking that we had sketched up.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioners, additional questions for Jason while we have him up there? I'm not seeing or hearing any, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, the podium is open for others. And if you would put your name on the log and introduce yourself, that would be wonderful.
Chairman and Commissioners, Parker Platson with Epic, part of the development and development team builder over at Bowden. Just wanted to quickly point out a couple of items. So mostly nothing's changed in terms of parking lot requirements since the beginning of this. I mean, we're bound by the size of the building, which deems what we have to have for parking lot size. So there's really nothing that we can change or that we're asking to change as part of that, with the exception of having this additional parking space for overflow. I think that was outside of what Jason already answered. I think that was really the only point I came up here to make. I can also answer probably some additional questions if anyone has any regarding the development in general.
Commissioners? Questions for Parker? I'm not seeing any, Parker. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's Pamela Sharp. I've been a resident of Boulder Ridge for 12 years. Love the community. Moved there because I wanted to live there. I wasn't here at your meeting a month ago. I was not able to be here. I was at the first meeting when you approved Bowden. I testified against it. I actually truly felt like I was not listened to at all. All the points, and I would reiterate every point that Ms. Ulmer just made. It's the school, it's the residential. We don't want to look at parking lots. Feel like you're just like, take an inch and you just want us to give a mile. So, I mean, we've kind of adjusted to the commercial buildings they're not unattractive. I'm not complaining, but we have adjusted to that. We don't want it to get bigger. I don't care if they use their space for a garage or commercial. We don't want to look at a parking lot, and I don't want this to keep on creeping up on us. We are a residential area. We want to be residential. We don't want commercial buildings in the middle of us, and we don't want it to grow. We don't want to acquiesce to something and then be told a few years later, oh, no, now we need to take more or make it bigger. I would just respectfully ask that you reconsider the decision you made in your head last month and just leave it as is right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Just really quickly, I realize that the actual footprint of the building isn't getting bigger, but the point of having a certain size office building and attached garage was because there was the promise that there wasn't going to be cars sitting out in the parking lot or on the street. And so that's why they set it up that way, so that the office building would be a certain size. And then if there was somebody that needed the garage for space, they could use the garage. So that was the original thought process that went into that. And that made sense. You know, we thought at least they're trying to do this. So as mentioned before, with adding a big parking lot, a big commercial building, you're going beyond what we were originally promised. And I realize us talking may not make a big difference to what your decision is, but I would really like to think it did. And in public interest, I'd love to just work with the developer and find ways to have it fit into the residential system as it is. And I think there was one other thing I was going to say. Anyway, so we appreciate your time. We appreciate your consideration. And I just hope you'll take this into really seriously, because we've watched in the past few meetings that it just seems like no matter what points we bring up, and no matter how valid, we're just overruled, even though nobody has ever answered the question, why couldn't it have been across the street where it was already zoned commercial? And that was our question from the very beginning, and that's our question now. And when it comes to water flow, you know, we don't have a whole lot of green space there, and now we're going to add more cement. The water flow issues are issues, and we'd love to work with the developer and make something that fits into the Boulder Ridge plan, just as we were promised. You can look back at the original plan, and they had some agreement with the previous owner of that piece of property that if they were to purchase it, they'd purchase it. I think it was, I'm sure Ron can, clarify this, but when they were ready to develop, the purchase would go through. But it was all set up as a residential for homes. I think it was 32 homes that were supposed to be there, which would have been wonderful and fit right in. But anyway, just take that into consideration, and we'd appreciate it if there was some more conversation on what can happen with that property, and maybe we can find some really good solutions where both the residents and the developers are happy with it. So that's my request.
Thank you. With that, the podium is open for others that would care to address this agenda item. I see Jason's coming back.
Chairman, Commissioners, just to clarify two things. The parking ordinance is set in a commercial application by size of the building. Parker did allude to that a little bit. So the garage space was to allow for, if needed, a couple vehicles to park in, but an office building gets parked at, I believe, one space per 360 square feet. So quick math, you can take 5,500 and divide that by 360, and that could tell you, about what your parking could be. What we have had in reality since we've started this project is, we came in here and we had these lots, and we're finding that people are like, well, I would like to actually have 2 lots. And so we've been on most of these sites combining 2 lots for a site. That doesn't allow us to get any additional building square footage. It doesn't allow us to have any other things, separate buildings or anything. So, by taking these lots and combining them, we're actually taking square foot of space out of there. Stormwater, there are impervious limits that we have for this area. And we did go through that with the initial Bowden addition stormwater plan. Every one of these lots, there's a impervious calculation to make sure that we're not going over that. So there's a certain set of green space that's set aside on every single lot. So in effect, one of the things that we had to do when we brought this request in first is we did a calculation and said, if we're looking at twin homes and we took twin homes out and it became commercial product, and based on what we're seeing in reality, what are we averaging? And we're actually finding out that we are averaging more perviousness, more grass space across the board than our calculations had assumed in the beginning. And so that's what was one of the factors that was saying, okay, from a stormwater aspect, check the box, we're good there. We're not making this any worse. It's actually being more impervious, more grass space. So just a couple points. So if you have any questions.
Again, Commissioners, questions for Jason?
One quick
Commissioner
one.
Johnson.
So on that parking again, that's only allowed in RT zone lots, is that right? Or is it any lot within this development?
Commercial?
No, the parking lot, I believe that additional parking lot standalone is only allowed within the RT zone lots.
That is correct.
Which would include the ones that were just rezoned
Correct.
RT. Okay.
Yes. Yep. It would be classified as a communal parking lot in the ordinance of the city.
Thank you for the clarification. Additional questions for Jason? I'm
Thank
not
you.
hearing or seeing any, Jason. Thank you. With that, the podium is open for anyone that would care to address this agenda item. And I'm not seeing or hearing any. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing on this agenda item. And Daniel, any final comments?
No, thank you, Chair.
All right. With that, Commissioners, this is a request for a zoning map amendment, and staff's recommendation is to approve. What are your wishes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Johnson.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Zent. With that, the floor is open for discussion. Commissioner Schell.
Thank you, Chair. That's a question for staff, actually, in response to the question asked on how is this in the public's best interest, or do we take into account opportunity of adjacent commercial property when we weigh the staff recommendation on the subject property. Can you maybe walk through the findings of fact and the process that you go through when making a recommendation?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, as the applicant alluded to, there were discussions before this ever came to the table for this. We knew this site, being adjacent to residential, had sensitivities, and so that's really the reason for a lot of the elements that are in the conditional RT district you see today. Some things weren't discussed today, but were in the original one. There's building design standards to have a residential character, limiting the garage door heights, limiting some of the elements of the design, some lighting standards that are above and beyond what would typically be in an RT district because of the adjacency of residential. This is also adjacent to North Washington, an arterial roadway and a collector roadway of East LaSalle. And as we heard as well, on the west side, this mirrors the similar zoning of the RT all along North Washington, including inside of on the south of Slate Drive, just south of this site, on the east side of North Washington Street, also has RT zoning as well. So when we were looking at this, it didn't seem out of character for the corridor as a whole of North Washington Street. And so given the additional standards that were included in this and the location and the fact that it was accessing directly from the collector and not sending traffic through the local roads in the neighborhood, we were comfortable recommending approval at that stage.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schell. Additional discussion, commissioners?
Chair Schwartz, Commissioners, I have another question for staff regarding, I think some of the comment we've heard with RT also across the street, across Washington, and specifically thinking about the long-term care facility across Washington in a similar zoning district, and being familiar with the size and parking looks of that. I think that probably brings on some of the concerns of citizens in that area, not to speak for them, but as I hear them, I hear some reflection of what surrounds them, and especially across Washington. So I guess my question in all of that is towards staff, what specifically could you point out within how this development is written that could sway some of those concerns for a resident who looks across Washington and sees a similar zoning with a building of that size and parking of that size?
Sure, I'll address that. Thank you, Commissioner Larson. So that is correct. It is a conditional RT district on the other side of Washington. The conditions are quite different, and some of the stemming from the fact that the lot size is different. It's just a different context. Probably the biggest one that you alluded to is that the height and size is much larger of that building. So this RT district in Bowden Addition, you wouldn't see anything like that. It's limited to 35 feet in height and 2 stories maximum for the buildings, which is of residential character, and of course the 5,500 square feet of footprint. So yeah, if there is a concern that you would see something like that on this side, that certainly would be not allowed by the zoning.
Does that answer your question? Commissioner Larson? All right.
Yes, thank you very much, Daniel.
Thank you. With that, commissioners, additional discussion or questions? And I'm not seeing or hearing any. So with that, we have a motion on the table to approve. Sarah, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Field?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Schell?
Yes.
Commissioner Seebach?
Yes.
Commissioner Wangen?
Yes.
Commissioner Zent?
Yes.
Chair Schwartz?
Yes, the motion is approved. With that, we move on to item C in our regular agenda, which is North Star Commercial Park, 3rd Subdivision, Blocks 1, 2, and 3. And I believe Jenny is going to provide us with staff report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, planning staff are requesting approval of a zoning map amendment that would add temporary fireworks sales as an administrative special use to the existing conditional MA industrial zoning district for blocks 1, 2, and 3 North Star Commercial Park 3rd subdivision. This request is located north of Bismarck, east of US Highway 83, between North Star Drive and 71st Avenue Northeast, and consists of 33.5 acres. It is also in an area identified as industrial flex in the land use plan. Industrial flex areas provide flexible employment centers for a range of businesses. You considered this request and called for a public hearing at your meeting last month on March 26th. The existing conditional MA industrial zoning has been in place for about 20 years, and temporary fireworks sales have occurred within this subdivision and have been permitted for a number of years. Recently, it was brought to our attention that this use is not included in the conditional zoning district. It's unclear if temporary fireworks sales were purposefully or accidentally left out of the conditional district when it was created and approved in 2005. Staff anticipates that it was the latter, as other uses, including temporary Christmas tree sales and circuses, are permitted within this district. Our records indicate that temporary fireworks sales have been occurring within these blocks for close to 15 years. The zoning ordinance specifies administrative approval for temporary uses based on certain criteria. Fireworks sales are permitted to occur outside city limits for a period of no more than 30 days in the MA Industrial, MB Industrial, and Agriculture zoning district. The public has been notified of this request. A notice was published in the Tribune on April 11th and 18th, and 51 postcards were mailed to the owners of nearby properties on April 11th. We have received 2 phone calls regarding the amendment. One was in favor and one was not. Written requests were also submitted to you this morning prior to our meeting today. The request was evaluated according to standards contained within the Comprehensive Plan, Bismarck Code of Ordinances, and state law. And as a result of all the findings contained in the staff report, staff find that the proposed zoning map amendment would not adversely impact the public health, safety, and general welfare, and is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan, Code of Ordinances, and state law. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of the zoning map amendment that would add temporary fireworks sales as an administrative special use to the existing conditional MA industrial zoning district for blocks 1, 2, and 3, North Star Commercial Park 3rd subdivision. Do you have questions?
Commissioners, questions for Jenny?
I have one. Did Hay Creek Township have an opinion or take a stand on their thoughts of this?
Thank you, Commissioners. Commissioner Wong. And Hay Creek Township was notified in February. We have not yet received a resolution for this project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagon. Commissioner Shell?
Jenny, can you clarify what happens if something is an administrative special use, what process it goes through after that is completed?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Shell. Commissioners, an administrative is really that. It's administrative. It gets reviewed by staff, and a permit can be issued if it meets the criteria outlined in the ordinance. Very different from the special use permits that you commonly see here for like oversized accessory buildings. So no public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Shell. Commissioners, additional question. Commissioner Johnson?
I've got one kind of comment, but some of these uses, like when you're talking about temporary uses and you're going from someone having a shop condo that has one vehicle parked in it to a place selling fireworks, even if it's only for like 2-3 weeks, you might have a dozen cars out there, 2 dozen cars, and that seems to be more of like a broader concern with some of these temporary uses popping up in spaces that were really not intended to handle much traffic. Not really a comment specific to this, what's in front of us, but just a general temporary use comment.
Thank you.
Commissioners, additional questions for Jenny? Jenny, I noticed that one of the, out of a couple of the letters that were sent in, the complaint was about fireworks being discharged out in that area. Now, it is allowable to do that, correct?
Yes, it is. During a certain time period, it is allowed to be discharged. I read those complaints as well, and they will be part of the public record, and I'm assuming that the applicant will take a look at that and provide any kind of cleanup necessary that was recommended by the applicant, or the person who submitted comments.
Okay, and one more question for you. How many temporary stands usually get set up out there? Do you know?
I can double check with Brady. I know of one when I drive by in that subdivision. However, I've seen permits for 4 lots within the last 15 years.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Shell?
One more type question, and maybe it's playing off of Commissioner Johnson's thought process is, if it is an administrative special use, what are the criteria that staff would look at to say, yes, this is appropriate, if it's a tent or if it's inside a building or if there's no room to park any of these cars or potential customers? Can you maybe walk through that piece or
Sure.
Brady could?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, Brady Bleskowski, building official for City of Bismarck. There really is no conditions or special criteria. It's just a limited time frame. It's a temporary use. Each of those temporary uses has a different term. I guess these are 30 days. So.
Thank you.
Commissioners, additional questions? If not, I will open up the public hearing on this agenda item. Is either the, actually, anybody can step up to the podium and speak to this. Sir, if you'd put your name on the log and announce yourself.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Lance Holden. I am the owner of one of the said stands that has been in that area for, I have been there for about 5 years now. And I bought out the guy that had been there in that area before. I'm also inadvertently somewhat the initiator of all this because it has taken a long time to try and find areas to set up a stand just because of, it's a difficult thing, and then limited usage for fireworks use. And there was a stand that was set up last year that was on a piece of property that I had been informed in the past was not usable for fireworks. So I brought up the issue to see why I couldn't do it and somebody else could. And that one has been resolved, I think. But then they said, oh, by the way, you're probably not supposed to be doing it where you're at either. Great, okay. So I guess I'm in favor of it. The owners of the piece of property that I use, which is right along 71st on the north side, are new this year. They purchased the property last year. And I know that I've dealt with them just a little bit now to do that. But I know a lot of the things that we do and try to make sure that it's not a burden to the community or the area, I guess. It's not a huge residential area there, obviously, but to make sure that everything's cleaned, the grass is mowed and all that type of stuff, and that we're cleaned up afterward. Some of that is required by fire department as well, so we're bound as much by them as by some of the city temporary use permit things. But as far as fire prevention, and that is both the mowing of the grass and then having fire extinguishers, and they know where we're at and access and all of that type of stuff. In this area, I personally have never had any complaints as far as lighting off fireworks or any garbage that was left behind or anything like that. I know in other areas that I have set up tents, we have, and generally we just make accommodations with whoever is in the area. If they don't like the use of fireworks, or especially after a certain time of night, we always try and abide by those. And so there's places where we don't shoot off any at all at our stands. That's both because of requests by the community or in places where in Center we have a tent right in town, so we don't shoot anything off there, obviously. But anyway, so I guess I don't have much to say, although we've been doing it for a long time, and I hope that we haven't made too many people too frustrated there. It always has treated us well, and I'd be open for any questions that you have for me.
Commissioners, questions for Lance? Commissioner Zent.
First of all, suppose we don't get any rain and fireworks are banned. Is that a big issue? You just don't set up, right?
I just don't set up. So fireworks sales have never been actually banned as far as I know, but use has been. And I have set up before when they were banned, and financially I will never do that again because it was not a wise decision on my part. So.
And second of all, I want to applaud you for making it right, not only for yourself, but for other people that want to do it. And then I also want to thank you for your information and warning based on your T-shirt. So,
Oh, yes.
thank you.
It was, I kind of found out about the meeting last minute. It wasn't an intentional shirt that I wore. It was just what I happened to be wearing today. So, anyway.
Thank you, Commissioner Zent. Commissioner Shell.
Lance, do you operate out of one of the structures out there? Do you bring out a tent, and then can you speak to maybe the other operators in this area from your knowledge of how they operate in this site?
Sure. I operate out of a tent at that location. I don't have any permanent buildings. I guess in Wilton, in my hometown, we operate out of a shop, but that's not a permanent. Like, we bring in the product every year and bring it back. As far as I know, the only permanent ones would be maybe Memory and way down on the south side, Bob's Fireworks at City. I honestly know how they store those, but Memory is just down 71st from us, and they have their own large facility and sprinkler systems and all that type of stuff. We use a tent, and that, again, dictated by the fire department based on the square feet, how many entrances and exits and fire extinguishers we need, and how far the grass needs to be cleared and all that type of stuff. The one other that has been active recently in this area operates out of a semi-trailer, and so they have, I believe, one for storage and then one where they are selling out of, and so they don't have any tent on site. And there have been some others in the past. I know they've been out of tents and trailers. One at one point brought in sort of almost like a little trailer house unit type of thing and set it up. So it's been different structures.
Thank you, but none of them using the buildings that are within the subdivision.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shell. Commissioners, additional questions for Lance? And Lance, you answered my question. I was curious about complaints.
Sure.
And so thank you for addressing that.
Yeah. And not that the others haven't in that area, but yeah.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, the podium is open for others that would care to address this agenda item. And I'm not seeing or hearing any. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing on this item. Commissioners, this is a request for a zoning map amendment, and staff's recommendation is to approve. What are your wishes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Zant.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Seebeck. Any additional discussion? And I'm not seeing or hearing any, so Sarah, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Wangen?
Yes.
Commissioner Field?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Shell?
Yes.
Commissioner Seebeck?
Yes.
Commissioner Zent?
Yes.
Chair Schwartz.
Yes, the motion is approved. With that, we'll move on to item D, which is Southland 3rd Edition. And I believe Isaac is going to provide us with staff briefing this evening.
Yes, thank you, Chair Schwartz and Commissioners. So this next regular agenda item comes to us from Sattler Homes, Inc., who are requesting approval of a minor subdivision final plat titled Southland 3rd Edition in the location shown on the screens before you, as well as a zoning map amendment from the current RM15 residential district to the PUD plan unit development on the entirety of the same project area. This project is located in South Bismarck, east of South Washington Street, west of Peachtree Drive, and on the south side of Santa Fe Avenue, again, as shown on the screens. This project consists of about 5.87 acres and will change the existing 7 lots in one block to 28 lots in one block as part of that replat portion of the request. The PUD portion of the request comes with the request from the applicant to help facilitate the development of single-family homes on lots that would have lot sizes and lot widths that would be a little bit below or smaller than the existing dimensional standards for R5 or R10 residential districts. The surrounding land uses to the north, east, and south is some variety of different residentially zoned lands, both single-family, two-family, and multifamily. And then to the west, we have some partially developed commercial land as well. As shown on the screen right now, the area is identified as neighborhood mixed use in the future land use plan, which are considered areas for social and commercial gathering spaces for the immediate surrounding residential areas. The public was notified of this request via publications in the Bismarck Tribune on April 11th and 18th, and 41 postcards were mailed to owners of nearby properties on April 11th as well. To my knowledge, staff has not received any written comments regarding this request. Staff has received a few inquiries about the requests, but after talking with the folks on the phone a little bit and let them ask their questions, they have not submitted any formal comments to the best of my knowledge. One other thing I will note, if we can go to the next slide here. So for the sake of transparency, this slide here is the plat of Southland Second Edition with the area on the west side there highlighted of what the replat area is. The reason I bring this up is staff noted after the staff reports were sent out to the commission, but while we were creating this presentation, that the version included in the staff reports incorrectly identified the area of the project, rather the block to the south, block 6 of Southland Second Edition, when it should be the block to the north there in your staff report, block 7 of Southland Second Edition. All other maps and identifiers in the staff report were correct. The legal ads and notifications were correct, but it was just a clerical error on that one particular portion. So I just wanted to bring that up for transparency and in case anyone saw that and was confused by that. But yes, wanted to clear that up. But then, other than that, as a cumulative result of all findings contained in the staff reports, City of Bismarck staff find that the proposed minor subdivision final plat and the accompanying zoning map amendment would not adversely impact public health, safety, or general welfare of the public, and is consistent with the comprehensive plan, Bismarck Code of Ordinances, and relevant state law. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the minor subdivision final plat titled Southland 3rd Edition, as well as approval of the zoning map amendment from the RM15 residential district to the PUD plan unit development for the area of Southland 3rd Edition. Does the commission have any questions for me at this time?
Commissioners, questions for Isaac? Commissioner Johnson.
So you mentioned that it doesn't fit R10 lot standards. So what was the, why not just say, no, you got to go with R10 or some other already delineated zoning standard versus PUD? Just thinking, is PUD just an option to not follow zoning? I guess what was the city's thoughts there of allowing a PUD here versus just saying, no, it's got to be R10 or something else?
Sure. So Commissioner Johnson, Chair Schwartz, and Commissioners, the specific request in this case was to have lots for single-family homes have a minimum size of about 5,500 square feet, as well as a width of about 40 or 44 feet wide. As of right now, single-family homes in either an R5 or R10 would need at least 7,000 square feet in a newly platted area or replatted area, and a width of 60 feet wide. Therefore, this request would not meet either of those. So we looked at different options, PUD being a more of a customizable district to try address certain things that might not fit in standard zoning districts. This is also a broader conversation that staff are having as we are redoing our whole zoning code, of course, the land development code, which you are aware of. But in the meantime, this was the path that would best work for the applicant in this case.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioners, additional questions for Isaac? I'm not seeing or hearing any, Isaac. Thank you. With that, I'll open up the public hearing on this agenda item. And I see Landon is stepping up.
Thank you, Chair Schwartz. Yeah, just a few items to add to what Isaac had presented, maybe give you a little bigger picture of what's going on here. So he had mentioned before that this is existing at 7 lots right now. Those lots are sized to be approximately used for 4-unit condos, 4-unit townhouses, that type of thing. So we'd end up with effectively 28 units in this particular block. We're knocking it down to single-family homes, trying to help the city with our ongoing problem of affordable housing and for people who still want that single-family home and not to be in a condo. So this gives us, we're going from 28 units as a condo down to 28 units as single-family units. To do so, to make this a little bit more affordable in Bismarck, smaller lots, smaller buildings, smaller setbacks. So that's where we're at today. I can try to answer any questions if you have them.
Commissioners, questions for Landon? Commissioner Shell.
Landon, we've had previous discussions on the utility stubs that were placed for what was going to be the 7 4-unit buildings or lots. Would the developer acquiesce and have a development agreement be a condition for approval that assigns the responsibilities of those utilities? I know we talked about that. I don't think it made it into the staff report as a condition, but would the developer find that agreeable?
Commissioner Schultz, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I mean, that would be fairly standard practice with any development in Bismarck where you have shared utilities and things like that. And HOA is almost certainly going to be needed to handle this, and then a development agreement to go with that so that the city can be sure that it's not their responsibility to handle these sort of internal water and sewer networks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Shell. Additional questions for Landon? I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Landon. With that, the podium is open for others that would care to address this agenda item. And I'm not seeing or hearing any, so with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. With that, Commissioners, this is a request for a minor subdivision, final plat. And I guess I should ask, Isaac, any additional comments?
Not at this time, thank you.
All right, thank you. This is a request for a minor subdivision final plat and a zoning map amendment. Staff's recommendation for both is to approve. What are your wishes?
I would move to approve with a condition the developer enter into a utility agreement with the city prior to plat recordation.
Thank you, Commissioner Shell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Zent. Any additional discussion, Commissioners?
Chair Schwartz?
Yes, Commissioner Larson.
I have a question that might be for Isaac, might be actually for Gabe, or I'm not sure who of city staff, but pulling on my past Mandan City Commissioner experience sitting on the portfolio for Public Works, these tighter developments as a PUD like this, while they're excellent to address affordable housing, can create challenges in terms of garbage and snow removal as well as parking, on-street parking. So I'm wondering if there's any concerns or consideration from the city relative to that, and any conditions that need to be added relative to those services.
Thank you, Commissioner Larson. I will begin, and if others want to join in, they certainly can. If the development were to continue without the PUD and sticking with the existing zoning of RM15, any development that would happen there would go through the site plan process. But going into the PUD, there would not be a standard site plan review process. But certainly they would still need to follow all relevant ordinance requirements for off-street parking and things like that. So staff did not have any specific concerns with the development that I can recall off the top of my head when we discussed this in the initial review of the application.
Thank you, Isaac. Commissioner Shell, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
Maybe the only thing I would add that Isaac didn't cover is that for this size structure, the 2-stall garage of parking inside the structure, as well as, I guess I don't know if they have what sort of setback they have from the public right of way, but Isaac, can you speak to the parking on site compared to what would be on the street? Because I'm thinking that there's probably not a lot of opportunity to park on the street, but if that's satisfied within the site, then it should be a moot type issue.
Yes, so Commissioner Schell and Commissioners, the existing off-street parking requirements for single-family homes would be 2 spaces per single-family home. Typically, we would see that in a garage, and depending on the width of the driveways leading up to those garages, there could still be space for on-street parking as well.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, any additional discussion, commissioners? And I'm not seeing or hearing any. So with that, we have a motion on the table to approve with a condition. Sarah, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Sivak?
Yes.
Commissioner Field?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wangen?
Yes.
Commissioner Shell?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Zent?
Yes.
Chair Schwartz?
Yes, the motion is approved. Moving on to item E in our regular agenda, Midwest Business Park, second edition. This is a request for a minor subdivision final plat, and Jenny is going to provide us with staff briefing this evening.
Thank you, Chairman Schwartz. Commissioners, Mid-Continent Communications is requesting approval of a minor subdivision final plat titled Midwest Business Park Second Edition. This request is located in East Bismarck, east of North Bismarck Expressway and south of East Main Avenue in the northwest quadrant of the intersection of 52nd Street Northeast and Tandem Drive, and consists of 6.25 acres with 2 lots in 1 block. The proposed plat is a replat of lots 4 and 5, Block 1 Midwest Business Park Edition. If approved as proposed, the plat would move the east-west property line separating lots 4 and 5 north, add an additional 15-foot wide stormwater and drainage easement along the east side of proposed Lot 1, and include a modified non-access line along the south side of the plat adjacent to Tandem Drive. This was approved at last night's City Commission meeting as a separate plat modification, and again moves the southern access point to the property further west away from 52nd Street. The existing platted 50-foot wide buffer yard will remain as shown on the original plat. The property is zoned conditional MA industrial. Conditions include specific development requirements for all properties, including design and aesthetic standards for buildings, materials and colors, and increased landscaping for outdoor storage areas. Additionally, this property is located within the transition area, which means it is located within 400 feet of the center line of 52nd Street Northeast. Additional requirements for development within the transition area include a maximum setback of 75 feet from the east property line adjacent to 52nd Street, a building height limit of 25 feet, and a requirement that all loading areas shall be oriented away from 52nd Street Northeast. A site plan and building permit for the project have been submitted and are being administratively reviewed by staff. It should also be noted that prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the Technical Operations Center for Mid-Continent, all site improvements, including landscaping for the proposed site outlined in our ordinance, as well as in the conditional MA ordinance, must be installed. This includes replacement of all plat material that is missing or dead within the existing 50-foot wide landscape berm, planted when this property was originally platted and zoned. The public has been notified of this request. A notice was published in the Tribune on April 11th and April 18th, and 44 postcards were mailed to the owners of nearby properties on April 11th. We have received one email inquiry, neither for or against, just looking for more information. The request was evaluated according to standards contained within our comprehensive plan, code of ordinances, and state law, and as a result of all the findings contained in the staff report, staff find that the proposed minor subdivision plat would not adversely impact public health, safety, and general welfare, and is consistent with our comprehensive plan, code of ordinances, and state law. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the minor subdivision final plat for Midwest Business Park Second Edition. Do you have questions?
Questions for Jenny? I'm not seeing or
Thank
hearing
you.
any, Jenny. Thank you. With that, I'll open up the public hearing on this agenda item. Is either the requester or a representative here to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Abe Almer with Independent Land Surveying and Engineering. I'm the engineer on the site plan and working with Mid-Continent on this project. This minor plat request is only moving, well, it's currently 2 lots. We are proposing to move the lot line between the 2 lots 120 feet north. Currently, they bought both lots in aspect of they didn't know exactly how much space they needed for their technical operations center. They're building their office space and their contractor's yard and storage space exterior. Once we laid out the property, we realized we did need a little bit more than just the south lot, the additional 120 feet, I believe it was. Just moving that lot line to the north is what we're asking for. To speed up the process, I guess we have done a lot combination for the site plan approval. So right now, those two lots are one lot, but we are looking at, since then, we have determined that line, and we would like to split that into two lots and just move that. So that north lot was approximately 3 acres is down to, or I'm sorry, the south lot that we're keeping was originally 3 acres. We're moving that to 4 acres, and the remainder will be on the north lot. I think it's 2.5 on that north lot when we're done. All the zoning ordinances and everything, we're not asking for any changes. We are looking at meeting all those zoning ordinances for the building colors, the building fascia, all the setbacks, everything else, all the landscape. We do have a landscaper going out there to count all the missing trees in the buffer and everything like that to replace it, because we know that that is an issue of the property and the neighbors. Any questions that you guys would have possibly?
Commissioners, questions for Abe? Abe, thank you for being sensitive on the buffer side of things.
No.
Commissioner Zend?
Is there access on the 52nd Street?
No. Currently, there's a non-access line all the way along 52nd. That southern non-access that we did move in yesterday's commission meeting, the access was centered on the south property line along Tandem Drive. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. There's a little hill down there, and there's a grade issue, so we asked to move that further to the west just to help with that grade issue. So we closed off that old access point that we could have had in the middle and just shifted it to the west with this new plat. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Zend. Commissioners, additional questions for Abe? Abe, again, thank you for being sensitive to that buffer side of things. When we've had public hearings before, the neighbors have been concerned about that, so it'll be great to get it taken care of.
Okay,
thank you. With that, the podium is open for others that would care to address this agenda item.
Chairman, Commissioners, I'm one of the neighbors that have expressed concerns with the lack of maintenance or care of
Sir,
said
would you
lights.
introduce yourself,
Oh,
please?
Donovan Voller. I live pretty much right across the street, right across 52nd from what we're talking about here. A couple of questions, some concerns that I have and the neighbors have out there is when the conditional MA was put into place, we were told that any buildings that were going to be built on these lots that run parallel to 52nd Street, the buildings were going to be put up as close to the landscape berm as they could be so that there could be no storage behind the building and we wouldn't have to look at what I heard, contractor equipment, storage, that kind of stuff. That has been one of our concerns since the get-go is equipment storage and stuff like that out there. And it probably wouldn't be as big of a concern had the landscape buffer been maintained and taken care of like it would be. It would probably be effective. I mean, it's been there for over 10 years, and it's been a disaster this entire 10 years, which, when they were talking about the landscape buffer with the other development earlier, I almost got up and made reference to what we've been dealing with the landscape buffer. It's a great concept, provided it's enforced and taken care of, and that's where one of the issues. And with the enforcement side of things, when we talk about the conditional MA, with the building colors and sizes and those kind of things, like I mentioned earlier, it was actually part of that was those buildings were supposed to be built up against that landscape buffer, the back of the building, so that nothing could be stored behind them and the neighborhood wouldn't have to look at trees. I have no idea what they're planning out there. Just wanted that to be, something to be aware of. Those promises were made to the neighborhood to make this whole development more palatable to those of us that live out there and call that area home. The other questions I have is I seen the maps that you had up here with transitional rural residential and flex MA titles on the Midwest Motor Development. Has something changed here that we as a neighborhood are not aware of, or is there a proposed change coming forward? We're zoned rural residential right now. Now I'm seeing transitional. No idea what that means. Can somebody explain all of that to us? We have some concerns because of the unknown. And I'm willing to answer any questions you all have for me.
Questions for Donovan? I'm not seeing any, Donovan.
Thank you for giving me the
We'll try and
opportunity.
have somebody from planning here address your question.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk.
Podium is open for others that would care to address this agenda item.
Good evening. I'm losing volume, so I apologize. I'm Jan Wangler. I live at 115 52nd Street. I am directly across the street from what's happening here. The concerns that I have, and though they might be many, I'll narrow it down a little bit. I did attend the City Commission meeting last night where they jumped ahead of you by asking for a change with the driveway. The fact that this plat had no notification before it comes up for final plat is kind of a concern, because if we were to able to address some of these things at the beginning, it might change things for anybody doing the development. And I appreciate the engineer being here last night, because he explained more than the city had really no idea what was going on with this ahead of time, other than these folks are trying to, and I don't blame them a bit, I'm pro-business. They're trying to shorten the amount of time it takes to get everything accomplished. And, you know, gold star and pat on the back to them for, you know, trying to shift things. However, it didn't give us a chance to address the fact that the driveway was going to be on the south end of this plat, which means that they're building facing south and their garage is facing west. I have no problem with the garages facing west. The back of the building was supposed to be up against 52nd Street. Now the front will be south, which if that south is the front, that automatically tells you the back is to the north. That gives them the opportunity to have their construction equipment, etc., outside and visible to the residences across the street. This has been more than a 10-year struggle, and I would tell you, not even just vocally, but I am just exhausted with attending these meetings. Having been on the Planning Commission and been the lone vote to side with the people in the residential areas when they fight, like the people did with the Bodie edition that you heard tonight, it feels like we're knocking our heads against the wall. We should have had an opportunity before they brought this plat in for the final decision to have input on it, not at the end of the road when changes could still be made. Here we come again, and we feel like we're the whiners or the complainers. But I'll say we were there first. We were there when the land use across from us was still highest and best use of rural residential, which one planner argued with me on, but I was on the commission when it was still the highest and best use for that area. Then they cut the hill down 40 feet. So now we see everything into the city and the dilapidated fairgrounds, what was the fairgrounds. And we have all of these industrial uses across the street when we assumed it would be residential, and we took smaller rural homes and we improved them at great expense when we were told that it was going to be something similar across the road from us. No different than the other subdivision that was fighting. I almost wanted to cheer for them with the berm thing, because that too we have fought. We fought the tumbleweed. We have photographs. We fought, please can we at least have down-facing lights? Almost everybody did it until a most recent one, which we discussed last month. It's like we're trying really hard just to accept what is and be good neighbors, but the promises aren't being kept. It seems like the city and the county just capitulate to the big businesses, and that somehow just doesn't seem fair. It seems like we ought to be able to all play in the same sandbox and all play by the same rules, and it doesn't feel like that's happening. And I guess I feel like it's a little bit futile because you have this final plat in front of you now, and it's just easy to say, yeah, go ahead. But you made promises before, and I don't see how this final plat, if the building orientation is as assumed, meets those criteria that you set out before. The previous owner of these lots had planned shop condos with the backs of the condos up against 52nd Street. And we're like, okay, it's industrial across the street. But if we're only seeing the back of a building and a landscape buffer, it's really something that we'll just learn to live with. But if the goalpost keeps changing, I think it's not only unfair, it puts a burden on us for things like resale value, the things that we're trying to do to improve our properties. I added another row of trees in the front of my yard trying to make up for the landscape buffer across the street that wasn't being maintained. So the expense to the landowners on our side of the street has grown quite a bit as well. So, like I said, we don't want to come here and be the whiny bunch from the neighborhood. We want to be the good neighbors and just accept what's happening. But please take into consideration the fact that though we were given notification of the plat, we've never seen an orientation of the building. And all of these things need to be taken into consideration when making good decisions on what's going to take place. And I didn't really leave you any room for questions, but if you have any, I'll be happy to answer them.
Commissioners, questions for Jan? I'm not seeing any, Jan.
Thank you for your time.
The podium is open for others that would care to address this agenda item. I'm not seeing or hearing any. Abe, would you mind stepping up again? And I don't know if you can answer any of Jan's questions as far as building orientation and things like that.
Yeah, I do have a copy of the site plan and actually a copy of some renderings of the building and stuff like that that I can share with you if I can get the overhead projector to work. I'm not very computer savvy. If it doesn't turn on naturally. Come on, Ben, you can do it. So what we have here is we have 52nd on the east side over off to the right. The proposed building here is orientated with the front facing south, the parking lot on the south along Tandem Drive. Everything here would be concrete inside their yard. Their fence line would actually be all the way around inside their yard. Concreted yard and a portion of it to be actual crushed concrete or crushed asphalt type yard. We are required to have landscape along the front, street trees, everything like that. We will, this buffer yard along 52nd, we are looking at doing that entire buffer yard, not just cutting it off where this plat meets, but we are looking at trying to update that entire buffer yard. Everything included in that for anything that's dead or missing and try to spruce it up a little bit. So with this, as far as I am with the site plan right now, this does, as I'm understanding, meet the zoning ordinance for the current zoning ordinance that's in effect for that. the building was shifted, so there is a maximum, so you have a 50-foot buffer yard and a 75-foot maximum setback off of 52nd. So this building is actually set back within the approved setback of 75 feet. I think where the residents are looking is they were kind of wishing that this entire thing was a building all the way down that, and that's just not feasible to build that big of a building for our site. I can show a couple building slides here if I can make this work too. Let's see, right side up. The south side entry, we do have like a light gray ephes on the upper portion, and then a darker, I think it was a dark black metal panels on the bottom to meet the ordinance. From the south and the west, this will be the west side where the garage doors are, facing west, facing towards Transport Lane. The south here faces Tandem Drive. Did I get those right? Yeah. From the east and the north, the east side is actually the same thing. It will have the ephes on the upper half, dark gray, and then the dark metal panels on the lower half, along with windows along. The front portion of this building to the front is pretty much office. The back two are mainly not for it's shop space, but it's more, as I understand it, it's more for sensitive materials for the mid-continent, their routers, their stuff for the cable supply. So, yeah, if there's any other questions or any.
The only other question I had, Abe, was what kind of things can the neighbors expect in that concreted-in lay-down area?
There's rules and regulations set forth in the ordinance that the stored materials can't be too high. A lot of it's going to be their work trucks in their yard. I'm sure they're going to have some spools of cable wire and fiber optic, that sort of thing. But there are rules to the height of that can be stored within that storage yard to try to be behind the fence. We are putting in a black a chain link fence with black slats all the way around that whole yard to try to help buffer that yard and try to enclose that yard from view. So.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Okay.
Commissioners, any additional questions for Abe? Commissioner Field?
So how much more traffic is this going to put on 52nd?
Honestly, what they have is they have the biggest shift at 40 workers. They can enter from the north or from 52nd. I can't tell you the traffic movements completely. That's all I really got for you is about 40 maximum is what, or 40 people on the largest shift.
Well, the only reason I was curious about that is across the street from this, I know the guy that owns that construction company. And he had a lot of trouble when the new buildings and the UPS building come in because everybody said they're going to put trees, and they didn't. And he had his crews out there vacuuming sand to keep his lawn alive.
Ooh.
So when you look at it, it's great for people to come here, but there is nobody at the city of Bismarck that drives out there. Because I know that owner complained many, many, many times as it was overrunning his property from them doing dirt work. And that's just fine blow sand out there. Horrible, nasty blow sand.
Yep.
So, and he's the only one that has living trees in that whole development as far as I know, unless somebody snuck out there and put a live one recently. But he's got real nice ones in front of his building.
Okay.
So I can see where, the neighbors get upset.
Okay.
So, and 52nd used to be a nice street, and that's getting all beat to hell because the traffic is overrun from too many, you got the new development down there, and that's kind of a split, half go to Apple Creek and half go up. But I don't think that road was ever intended for all the heavy traffic it's getting now. So that's why I asked how much,
Makes sense.
And does that fall on the homeowners to pay specials if that road gets wrecked? Or whose fault is it? Because there's a lot of heavy traffic moving in and out of there now. Or is there somebody from the city that's supposed to be looking out there?
So I can address that comment, Commissioner Field, fellow commissioners. That particular property or that segment of 52nd, some of that is annexed into the city. Some of it's the area adjacent to the Barbies neighborhood is not annexed into the city. So we have agreements with the Burley County Highway Department on some of these fringe area roads of who has the maintenance responsibility, whether it's a city segment or county, and we try to split up those responsibilities because there's a fair number of these, half in, half out type of facilities. So we just try to share that responsibility. I can't speak specifically on this one, if it's a city one or a county one. But I do know that if it was a city maintenance activity, because the county residents across the street are not in the city, we would not be able to include them in a special assessment district if that was the funding mechanism utilized to maintain the roadway. However, if the county established a special assessment improvement district, they could, because all this property is in Burley County. So I guess I can't speak to their processes, but typically they don't create special assessment districts for maintenance projects like we do in the city.
Thank you, Commissioner Shell. Any additional questions for Abe? Abe, thank you. And it looks like Jan wants to come back up.
I just want to ask, I don't know if Abe can answer it or if the commission, with the crushed concrete and stuff like that, that's outdoors, is there some way that it is covered or maintained? I mean, we've been sandblasted for so many years that I'm concerned about outdoor landscaping, stuff like that. I'm just curious how it's stored.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. To answer the question about the crushed concrete or the crushed asphalt yard, it's really just a temporary yard until we can place the concrete there. It's just to save a little funds for right now. It's planned at 6-inch thick crushed concrete, crushed aggregate pretty much. I mean, there are options, and they want to keep it clean too, so they could be putting a solution down to try to bind that down a little better and everything like that. We can try to look at that. If there are any complaints or anything like that, or if the dust starts flying, that's definitely an option. But the long-term solution is to add it into their concrete yard.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
What height fence are you putting around the parking area?
Just planning on a 6-foot height fence for right now.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any additional questions for Abe? Abe, we're good, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Podium's open for others that would care to address this agenda item. And I'm not seeing or hearing any, so with that, I'm going to close the public hearing on it. This is a request for a minor subdivision final plat, and staff's recommendation is to approve. Jenny, before we go further, Jenny, do you have any final comments?
I do, thank you. I normally don't, but I'd like to address Mr. Voller's questions. Daniel, would you mind putting on the screen the land use plan, please? Thank you. Mr. Voller, you'll see that purple area across the street, across 52nd Street, is something called IF in our land use plan. That's the industrial flex land use designation. The property that you live in Barbie's neighborhood is identified as transitional residential. That land use designation simply is rural residential close to city limits. So those two are land use designations. They are not zoning designations. The zoning for this property and your property are to remain the same.
Thank you, Jenny. With that, Commissioners, I am looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Wagon.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Sivak. Any additional discussion? And I'm not seeing or hearing any. Sarah, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Field?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Shell?
Yes.
Commissioner Sivak?
Yes.
Commissioner Wangen?
Yes.
Commissioner Zent?
Yes.
And Chair Schwartz.
Yes, the motion is approved. With that, we move on to item F in our regular agenda, which is Shamrock Acres, second subdivision, Block 5, Lot 7. And Lauren is going to provide us with staff briefing this evening.
Good evening, Chairman Schwartz and Commissioners. Brandon and Jessica Duff are requesting approval of a special use permit to increase the allowable area of accessory buildings to 3,200 square feet and to allow an accessory dwelling unit on Lot 7, Block 5, Shamrock Acres, second subdivision. The project area is 2.96 acres and is located north of Bismarck, east of 26th Street Northeast, north of 84th Avenue Northeast, on the east side of Dublin Drive. Adjacent uses include a mix of rural residential and agricultural uses. The property has been identified as rural residential in the future land use plan. The applicants intend to place the accessory dwelling unit within a 2,400 square foot accessory structure. Building inspection staff have noted that a building permit will be needed for the construction of the accessory dwelling unit within that accessory structure. The applicants had originally planned to place the new accessory structure in the southeasterly corner of the lot. This is indicated on the screen before you or within your packet as that red square with an X marked out through it. County engineering staff did note that this area has had stormwater issues in the past and recommended that the placement of the proposed accessory structure be placed at an elevation of at least 1,880 feet to mitigate potential impacts to the adjacent properties. The applicant was made aware of this recommendation and decided to relocate the proposed accessory structure to align with that recommendation. The new proposed placement of that accessory structure is identified as the red rectangle without the X through it, so it's more centered within the lot there. Based on this new location, the applicant does intend to demolish the current accessory structure that is right next to that red square. The public has been notified of this request. Notice was published in the Bismarck Tribune on April 11th and 18th, and 61 postcards were mailed to the owners of nearby properties on April 11th. Additionally, the project is located within Burnt Creek Township, which is not organized, and therefore no communications with the township have occurred. To my knowledge, staff have not received any formal comments regarding this request. However, staff has received 2 inquiries via phone requesting additional information about the request. However, through those conversations, those inquiries did not indicate if they were for or against the proposed request. This request was evaluated according to the standards contained within the comprehensive plan, code of ordinances, and relevant state law. The lot does conform to the minimum lot size requirements of the underlying zoning district and the proposed request. The lot size is greater than 65,000 square feet and may increase the total allowable accessory structure size to a maximum of 3,200 square feet with approval of a special use permit by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Only one accessory dwelling unit would be constructed on this parcel and would be occupied by no more than one family. The accessory dwelling unit will not be larger than 800 square feet and will be completely contained within the accessory structure that would need to meet all requirements of this code. The location of the accessory structure is that it will be located within meets all setback requirements for the zoning district as well. Based on the site plan submitted, an additional off-street parking space for the accessory dwelling unit would be provided, and only one bedroom would be included within the accessory dwelling unit. Additionally, the applicant has noted that they will have an additional drain field for that accessory structure to comply with the requirements for the accessory dwelling unit. Adherence to building and fire codes would be verified prior to issuance of the building permit for the accessory dwelling unit, including an adequate drive lane for the back from the street back to the proposed accessory structure. As a result of all findings contained within the staff report, City of Bismarck staff find that the proposed special use permit would not adversely impact the public health, safety, and general welfare, and is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan, code of ordinances, and relevant state law. Therefore, staff recommends approval of a special use permit to increase the allowable area of accessory buildings to 3,200 square feet, as well as to allow an accessory dwelling unit on Lot 7, Block 5, Shamrock Acres, second subdivision. Do you have any questions for me?
Commissioners, questions for Lauren? I'm not seeing or hearing any, Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll open up the public hearing for this agenda item. Is either the requester or a representative here to speak to it? And I'm not seeing anybody, so anybody else that is welcome to address this agenda item if they would like. And again, I'm not seeing or hearing anybody. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing on this agenda item. Commissioners, Lauren, any additional comments?
None at this time. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. With that, Commissioners, this is a request for a special use permit, and staff recommendation is to approve. What are your wishes?
Move to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wagon to approve.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Sivak. Any additional discussion? And I'm not seeing or hearing any. Sarah, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Wangen?
Yes.
Commissioner Field?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Sivak?
Yes.
Commissioner Shell?
Yes.
Commissioner Zent?
Yes.
Chair Schwartz?
Yes, motion is approved. Moving on to item G in our regular agenda is Harvest Grove Third Subdivision, Block 3, Lot 1. And once again, Lauren is going to provide us with staff briefing on this.
Good evening again, Chairman Schwartz and Commissioners. Matthew Stern is requesting approval of a special use permit to increase the allowable area of accessory structures to 3,200 square feet on Lot 1, Block 3, Harvest Grove 3rd Subdivision. The project area is 1.65 acres and is located north of Bismarck, west of Highway 83 Northeast, north of 84th Avenue Northeast, on the east side of Caraway Drive. The property has been identified as rural residential in the future land use plan. Adjacent uses include undeveloped land to the east, rural residential single-family to the north and west, and agricultural land to the south. The parcel is within the rural residential zoning district and is large enough to have an allowable maximum size accessory structures of 2,400 square feet without the special use permit. There is an existing 364 square foot accessory structure, and the applicant would like to build an additional 2,160 foot accessory structure. A second driveway for a new accessory structure is shown on the submitted site exhibit that's on the screen as well as within your packet. The applicant has received a second road approach permit from Burleigh County for that second driveway. The public has been duly notified of this request. Notice was published in the Bismarck Tribune on April 11th and 18th, and 45 postcards were mailed to the owners of nearby properties on April 11th. This project is located within Burton Creek Township, which is not organized. Therefore, no communications with the township have occurred. To my knowledge, staff has not received any comments regarding this request from the public. This request was evaluated according to the standards contained within the comprehensive plan, code of ordinances, and relevant state law. The lot conforms to the minimum lot size requirements of the underlying zoning district and the proposed request. The lot size is greater than 65,000 square feet and may increase the total allowable accessory structure size to a maximum of 3,200 square feet with approval of the special use permit by the Planning and Zoning Commission. As a result of all findings contained within the staff report, City of Bismarck staff find that the proposed special use permit would not adversely impact the public health, safety, and general welfare, and is consistent with the comprehensive plan, Bismarck Code of Ordinances, and relevant state law. Therefore, staff recommends approval of a special use permit to increase the allowable area of accessory structures to 3,200 square feet on Lot 1, Block 3, Harvest Grove 3rd Subdivision. Do you have any questions?
Questions for Lauren? I'm not seeing or hearing any, Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll open the public hearing for this agenda item. Is either the requester or a representative here?
Thank you,
Landon.
Chair Schwartz. Yeah, Landon Eimler with Swinson Ag Engineering, representing Matt Stern in this. Yeah, I know you guys have seen quite a few of these lately. Just another typical ask here to up the size of that accessory building. But I can certainly answer any questions if you have them.
Commissioners, questions for Landon? I'm not seeing or hearing any, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, the podium's open for others that would care to address this agenda item. And I'm not seeing or hearing anybody. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. And Lauren, any final comments?
None at this time, Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. With that, Commissioners, this is a request for a zoning map amendment. and staff recommendation is to approve. What are your wishes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Zent.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Sivak. Any additional discussion? And I'm not hearing or seeing any. Sarah, please call roll.
Commissioner Sivak,
Yes.
Commissioner Field,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wangen,
Yes.
Commissioner Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Shell,
Yes.
Commissioner Zent,
Yes.
Chair Schwartz.
Yes, the motion is approved. With that, we'll move on to item H in our regular agenda, which is Sykes Second Edition. And Jenny is going to provide us with staff briefing on this.
Thank you, Chairman Schwartz. Commissioners, Ridgeline Contracting is requesting approval of a minor subdivision final plat titled Sykes Second Edition. The request is located in southeast Bismarck, south of Airway Avenue and east of University Drive, in the northwest quadrant of the intersection of Burlington Drive and Wanchena Way, and consists of 6.06 acres with 8 lots in 1 block. This is a proposed replat of Lot 2A and 2B Block 1 Sykes Edition. Portions of the proposed plat are currently being developed, and 2 site plans for storage units and warehouses have already been approved. The proposed plat would create individual lots for existing and future buildings. This plat was previously approved by you back in January and the City Commission in February. However, the applicant has requested changes be made to the plat prior to recordation. Changes include removal of some internal access easements and water and sewer easements. As this plat has not yet been recorded with the Burley County Recorder, it is appropriate to hold another public hearing on the plat and receive Planning and Zoning Commission as well as City Commission approval of the proposed changes. The public was notified of this request. A notice was published in the Tribune on April 11th and 18th, and 6 postcards were mailed to the owners of nearby properties on the 11th. To my knowledge, we have not received any comments regarding this minor plat. The request was evaluated according to standards contained in the Comprehensive Plan, Bismarck Code of Ordinances, and state law. And as a result of all the findings contained in your staff report, staff find that the proposed minor subdivision final plat would not adversely impact public health, safety, and general welfare, and is consistent with our Comprehensive Plan, Code of Ordinances, and state law. Therefore, staff recommend approval of the minor subdivision final plat for Sykes Second Edition. Do you have questions?
Questions for Jenny? I'm not seeing or hearing
Thank
you,
you.
Jenny. Thank you. With that, I'll open the public hearing for this agenda item. Is either the requester, our representative Landon will once again be stepping in.
Thank you, Chair Schwartz. Yeah, just to add on a little bit to what Jenny had said, this was approved previously. We hadn't filed the plat yet, and in that time, some events occurred, possible purchases have come up, so sort of a change to how they wanted lots to be combined and reconfigured. So rather than filing the plat and then coming back before the commission and saying, hey, we need to vacate a bunch of easements that are in place, we just bring it back in front of you again so you can take another look at it. I can answer any questions if you have them.
Perfect. Questions for Landon? I'm not seeing any, Landon. Thank you. With that, the podium is open for others that would care to address this agenda item. And I'm not seeing or hearing anyone. So with that, I'm going to close the public hearing. Jenny, any additional comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you. With that, Commissioners, this is a request for a minor plat. Staff's recommendation is to approve. What are your wishes?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from Commissioner Wagen.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Zent. Any additional discussion? And I'm not hearing or seeing any. Sarah, please call roll.
Commissioner Field,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Shell,
Yes.
Commissioner Sivak,
Yes.
Commissioner Wangen,
Yes.
Commissioner Zent,
Yes.
Chair Schwartz.
Yes, the motion is approved. With that, we will move on to our other business this evening. And I believe Daniel is going to brief us on some items.
Okay, Chair Schwartz, Planning Commissioners, we have one other item for you this evening. So we would like to bring forward 2 potential zoning ordinance text amendments. We're not looking for any action tonight from you, just feedback. Of course, if these were to continue, you would be considering and holding a public hearing on these anyway. In recent years, we like to get your feedback up front before we sink staff time and go down a rabbit trail on any of these. We want to know that you at least are aware and conceding to that. So the first is an ordinance on short-term rentals. Now, we're referring to Airbnbs, VRBOs, uses of residential property for rental of periods of 30 days or less. This has come up during our land development code process. It's been raised by members of our steering committee. We've also heard some interest in the community for this, and other communities in North Dakota are looking into regulating short-term rentals. Our recommendation as staff would be to do this as a separate zoning ordinance text amendment rather than bundle into our land development code. We feel like it is a self-contained topic. It probably deserves its own stage, so to speak, on the topic. So if you wish, we can move forward with drafting that, and perhaps this summer or sometime holding a public hearing. We would, of course, need to gather input and look at and do some research on it before we haven't done any of that yet, before having anything to show to you. But we wanted to bring that one to your attention. The second one is more technical, and would be a zoning ordinance text amendment adjusting the setbacks of our P public zoning district. And this is really stemming from some discussions we've had with Bismarck State College and potential projects they're looking at, and the way that our height limits interact with our setbacks. Not to get into all the details, but it really would render the site they were looking at entirely unbuildable because of very extreme setbacks that would be applied. Now, in many of the other zoning districts, we've actually amended out these complex language, and we've just replaced it with more simple setbacks. We just didn't do that for the P Public District for whatever reason. We just see less development in these areas, and so we would recommend doing some changes just to the P Public District. Now, we could and will likely address this in the Land Development Code as well. However, the applicant would like to move forward more quickly than that, or at least have some assurance that they could design and not sink too much time into their designs and without the assurance of the zoning, meeting zoning. So they've requested that we do this before the Land Development Code. So those are two things we would propose to work on and come back to you with, and we can take any comments you have.
Commissioners, comments? Support or not? What would you like to have staff do? Commissioner Zen?
I'd like to see them proceed with both of them. I mean, our A and Bs are becoming more popular. That's a good plan. And the setbacks, we'll take a look at them.
Thank you. Commissioner Sivak? Thoughts? Agree, disagree? You're good with that? Commissioner Johnson?
Yep.
Good? Commissioner Shell?
I think the concept definitely on the P public, fully support that one. Maybe I'd question the short-term rental, just understanding how many complaints we have and what the complaints are, and if we already have regulations that cover that. Maybe is my question, if it's noise or if it's nuisance, or what are we responding to by the ordinance that would govern a short-term rental, maybe is my question.
Sure. Yeah, and I can speak to that. And honestly, our position has been for many years as staff is let's just wait on this and see if there is a response from the public. Obviously, there are Airbnbs and VRBOs out there, and they almost always operate without incident. However, we have received a complaint recently from one member of the public on an Airbnb that maybe had some noise or traffic concerns related to it. We have in the past received couple of complaints sporadically, and none that maybe rose to the level of something systematic. But so that on top of our steering committee wishing this to be a part of the Land Development Code kind of spurred this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Field?
So what period of time are you thinking a short-term rental is? Because there's a lot of people that snowbird here, and they'll rent their house to somebody for 6 months and go to Arizona, and then they come back. So, I mean, that's how they can afford to do it. So, I mean, and everybody here knows that I'm an advocate for leaving people alone. I don't like seeing people poked, and I think we should stay out of people's business unless they're breaking the law. So to create a law so that they're breaking one, only tyrants do those things.
Sure, I can maybe if I may, I can address
Proceed.
that first question, and that'll certainly have to be spelled out clearly in the ordinance. Typically, these, when we're talking about short-term rentals, we're talking about 30 days or less. So the 6 months would not, that would be any other rental, would not apply to this. It would be the ones that are rented by the weekend or the week, essentially.
Thank you. Commissioner Wagon, your thoughts?
I support taking a look at both of those, especially the setbacks on the public land. If that hasn't been touched in a long time and it's causing some challenges now, maybe it is time to look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And last but by no means least, Commissioner Larson.
Thank you. Yes, I agree.
All right, thank you. And I also agree. I think they should both be looked at. So with that in mind, Daniel, please have staff move forward.
Thank you. Okay, we'll be back.
All right. With that, our next meeting of the commission is scheduled for May 28th. And I want to thank you all for your time this evening. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.